How's everybody doing, and welcome back to the channel. Sorry for no video yesterday, but by the time I got home it was right around 5 o'clock ish and I just didn't feel like doing anything, so I didn't even come outside and work on my truck. Today I had just a little bit to do this morning. It's like 3 o'clock or something like that, and I just wanted to come out and try and get it buttoned up, put back together, and I get out here and it starts sprinkling. So I don't know how much I'm going to get done, but I'm going to try and get something done, even if it's just a little bit. I started off thus far. I've got injector 1 in and the fuel delivery tube. I did put the new O-rings on as far as the fuel delivery tube, the injector, and the new copper crush washer. This is what it looks like when I took it apart, took it off. Really nothing wrong with it per se, but like I had told you before, it's just cheap insurance. This is a $23 seal kit, and I just wanted to change it in all of them out and put all new on. So I'm going to continue on, put my injectors back in first, get those torqued down. It is 89 inch-pounds. I don't have an inch-pound torque wrench, so to convert it over, it's like 7.5-ish foot-pounds. So that's what your injector caps get torqued at. So right now I'm just going to do that, or just, you know, when you're taking those apart, feel and see how tight they are. If you're not, go buy or go rent. Actually, you know, most of your auto parts stores now, they have tool loaner programs to where you can go in, pay a deposit on it, and you can rent all kinds of different tools for doing all kinds of different things, from ball joint presses to spring compressors. Not this type of spring compressor, sorry, coil spring compressors like on suspension. They may have these, but you know, I picked that up from Ohio Diesel Parts, which is right here, ohiodieselparts.com, and that was an Amazon purchase. He has an Amazon store on he has his website, then he has an Amazon store, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. So, you know, those are links in my description for, you know, those tools and stuff like that. But right now, I want to finish getting my injectors put back in. I don't even know where I was going. And then get my rocker arms my rocker assembly put back on, and try and get this project buttoned up. I want to drive my truck and stop driving the little red truck out there. Anyway. Let's put some parts on. One thing I forgot to mention, just like when you're doing your injectors on your little crush washers, put just a little bit of Vaseline or oil or something on there to get this crush washer to stay in place while you pop it inside your injector housing on your truck. And then also take your little dab of oil, put on these rubber O-rings before you slide them in place. And then this injector has to be facing at an angle towards the driver's side, so that your fuel delivery tube goes right inside that slot, just like that. And what I'm doing, just to make sure everything's lined up, since I have everything tore apart, I'm putting all my caps on loose with mine, because the backs of the caps have a tang and the top of the injectors have your socket to accept that tang, just like that. So to make sure everything's properly in line before I put my fuel delivery tube in, I'm just putting my cap on loosely. All right, I've got all my caps on and torque to spec, which is 89 inch-pounds, or it figures up to like 7.4 foot-pounds if you do the math on it. One thing you want to make sure and do, if you look inside these bolt holes for the cradles for your rocker arms, see how that oil's in there? You want to try and get that oil out of there. It could cause like a hydraulic lock, I think is what they call it, and not allow your bolt to go all the way down in there to seat and torque. Another thing when you're doing your injectors is make sure and get all your copper washers out of your injector housing. That way you're not doubling them up. And you see I've got all 6 of them laying there, so I am good to go. Most of the time they're stuck to the injector, so you don't have to worry about it to begin with. Putting your bridges back on. Make sure all your dots, if you can see that right there, will go forward. So that means your slot is forward. One of them, or one top or bottom side of your bridge is bigger than the other. And also, see that as an intake side, so we'll take it up there and lay it up there. What I'm going to do, since it's not a new engine, I guess I'm not going to worry about assembly lube, but I'll take it and dip it in oil, just like that, and put a little bit of oil inside there, and then make sure that dot is forward. One thing I do have to do too is take all of the slack out of my lifters and loosen them all up. Loosen up the jam nut, which I believe is a 15 millimeter or 9/16 if I remember right, and then take all the slack out of them because the valves are going to have to be readjusted anyway. So next thing I want to do is go through there and get all that oil out of the bolt holes and get all the bridges put in place, doing what I showed you there, just dipping it in oil just a little bit that's down inside your head. Just like that, and then making sure that all my slots or my dots are forward, just like so. So I'll go through there and do all my lifters, or not my lifters, I'm sorry, all my rocker assemblies, and put it back together. Alright, I have all my Valvetrain put back on. Sorry for minimal footage, but it's rainy a little bit. It's windy as all get out. As you can see, them trees just howling in the background. But as you put all those on, one piece of advice I would give you if you're doing this in the truck is start with number 6. I started with 1, and when you get back to number 6, you can't see very well because it's so far back underneath the cowl. So I would start with number 6 and work your way this way. It would just be a lot easier. I got to go through and check my valve lash. You can see I have all the rockers sitting in the push rod buckets all the way back through there. You want to make sure of that as you're putting them back on, and everything's sitting on top your springs. Your bridges are good. Make sure all your little dots are going the right way. Don't know if it's necessary, but I did mine. That's the way they come off, so that's the way I'm putting them back on. So The rocker assemblies get torqued to 27 foot-pounds, and your, let me put this down. Now it's raining just a little bit harder, so I'm gonna have to take a break. And your injector hold down caps get torqued to 89 inch-pounds, or if you do the math, it's like equivalent to 7.5 foot-pounds. So I just used my 3/8 torque wrench and did everything. You don't need a monster to do this. And also remember, all of your copper washers have been removed. Other than that, it's pretty much just putting my fuel lines back on, getting the system and my intake elbow, getting the system bled, and doing a test fire. When you bleed it, it's 1, 2, and 4, if I remember right. 1, 2, and 4 for bleeding your injectors and doing your first fire. So I'm gonna go ahead and go get everything put back together and hopefully get it fired back up today. And cross my fingers that this clip right here that I lost, where's it at? That's an extra one. Let's hope that's down the oil pan, which I'm pretty confident that it is, just because of where it fell and the alignment that it's in. You know, number 5 is just about right here. And if you go straight down, you can see that right there's the oil sump. So when I drain my oil, it'll probably come out in there if it's down in the oil pan sump. So yeah, life will be grand. Hopefully it'll quit raining and I can get this finished up. Well, I think I'm ready to do bleed the injectors off. Not to do a test fire, but to get the injectors bled off. If you can believe it, I really can't. Remember to put your throttle position sensor back in place before you put your intake horn on. I did it again. If you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you know that I did that when I did my injectors, and I did it again. I put the intake elbow on, or intake horn, whatever you want to call it, and forgot to put my throttle position sensor back in place. So got all my valve lash done. It's 10 and 20, 10 on the intake, 20 on the exhaust. I think I said earlier, whatever I said, I believe it was wrong. It's 1, 3, and 4 to bleed your injectors. I think that's pretty much it. I think I have everything back together, ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and roll the engine over and get the injectors bled off, and then I'll put the valve cover on here in just a little bit. So keep your fingers crossed for me, and we'll see what happens. I have to go in and get my son and have him help me, because him and I are the only ones home. Wife can't help me this time. All right, everything seems to be okay. I didn't hear anything the couple of times that we started it. Got good oiling all over all the springs. Other than that, it's all back together. The only thing I need to do is put my valve cover on, and I'm gonna go ahead and have to change out these battery terminals. I had to put the battery charger on it to get it to start this time. I don't know if I'm getting a bad battery or if my battery terminals are bad on that main battery on the driver's side. So it was starting to crank slow and it wouldn't start. Had a little bit of trouble starting it this time compared to when I did the injectors. So I don't know as far as getting them bled and stuff like that. So I don't know if it was just the batteries were low, because once I put the charger on it, it's turned over like a sewing machine, and I was able to get the injectors bled pretty easy and fired up. So other than that, everything seems like it's a go. So if you don't mind, Hit that like button, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you have not already done so. Say thank you to my son.
My dad's truck is sexy.
And we'll talk to you guys later on. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.